Viewer discretion is advised.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is it possible that a Hall of Famer could land on this list? Well, it certainly is. Before Steve Young struck gold in San Francisco, he was thrust into a tough spot in Tampa and played some awful football, losing 16 of 19 starts before becoming Joe Montana's backup in 1987, proving that situation is very important in a QB's development. Unless he sucks. Justin Fields. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Roberto Aguayo. You know it's Roberto Aguayo. I mean, come on, he was the 59th overall pick in the draft in 2016, and he missed 9 of his 31 career attempts, plus 2 extra points in his only NFL season. He's a textbook case of the yips, more like Roberto Wide Righto, haha, rim shot. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cam Jordan. I don't know what it is about the NFC South, but these teams love to talk shit. Cam publicly made fun of Donovan Smith, beefed hard with Tristan Wirfs, and even went at fans directly, saying that the empty Superdome during COVID felt like we were at a Tampa Bay game. That's pretty funny. He has also torn shit up against the Bucs, racking up 17 sacks in 25 games. Yeah, I can see why he's hated. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Keyshawn Johnson's time with the Buccaneers had its ups and downs, and some hit and miss performances on the field matched with an outspoken aura and a public trade request in 2003 that definitely soured some Bucs fans, even if he did help them win the Super Bowl. Finally, the worst owner on this list, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Hugh Culverhouse. 81, 194, and 1. That was Hugh Culverhouse's record, which famously started with a 26-game losing streak. And when they finally started winning, Culverhouse lowballed Doug Williams and basically ran him out of town. Culverhouse always saw the bottom line before anything else and traded away any player who performed well and sought increased compensation. From 1983 to 1993, the team never won more than 6 games in a season. Moves like drafting Bo Jackson, even though he said he would never play for them, overpaying for Vinny Testaverde, and then perplexingly paying Steve Young a huge sum to leave the USFL, and then basically not putting a team around him. Culverhouse's antics can be better explained in Urinating Trees' video titled A Reign of Error. He finally died in 1994, and the Bucs were sold to the Glazers, who also suck, but not like how Hugh did. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Steve Young made a mistake coming out of Brigham Young. He signed with the USFL. So to correct that, he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the worst team in NFL history at the time. Look, Young was bad for the creamsicles, so in 1987 they traded him to the already QB-rich 49ers, who had Joe Montana. The Bucs got 2 picks, a second and a fourth, and those turned into a linebacker named Winston Moss and a wide receiver named Bruce Hill. Young would eventually win the job in San Francisco and go on to a Hall of Fame career, winning a Super Bowl and 2 MVP awards. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mark Dominic. The Buccaneers have never had a GM with a record over 500. Never. I was going to give this to John McKay, who went 2-26, but he led a handcuffed expansion team in an unfair era. Also, he was pretty funny.
Notre Dame beat us here in 1966, 51-0 in front of 87,000 people. 82,000 priests.
Mark Dominic was the GM from 2009 to 2013, and his tenure was soiled when he had to cut longtime hero of the franchise, Derek Brooks, and he also hired Greg Schiano. Very similar in design to Tulane Stadium is Tampa Stadium, which hosted 2 Super Bowls, the latter being Super Bowl 25, aka Wide Right. Dang, Bills fans are catching strays. At that Super Bowl, the late Whitney Houston sung a rousing rendition of the national anthem, as America was worried at the time that our gas prices might rise because of Saddam Hussein. Boy, we taught him a lesson in messing with our economy, did we not? Tampa Stadium was very hot, open, and basic. It was demolished in 1999 and is now the parking lot for Raymond James, which is next door. 3-time Super Bowl host Raymond James has the dubious honor of hosting the most sparsely attended Super Bowl of all time, Super Bowl 55, which was seen in front of only 24,835 fans. Why? Because people were so sick of Tom Brady winning another ring, and we just couldn't stomach it. Raymond James actually has a near identical layout as Nissan Stadium in Nashville, but you know, it has a pirate ship. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, here is the dirtiest scandal the league has ever seen. Literally, A rare and dangerous staph infection hit the Bucs training facility in the summer of 2013. Carl Nix, a former Pro Bowl guard, contracted it as he recovered from a toe injury and played only 2 more games in his career. And then Lawrence Tynes, who was to be the Bucs kicker in 2013, hasn't played since his MRSA infection and filed a lawsuit against the team, citing unsanitary conditions. This definitely happened before COVID. Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida. 3-time Super Bowl host Raymond James was opened in the late 90s and has been in use for over a quarter century. There has only been one real renovation in 2016 when new video boards were installed. New seats were installed when Brady was there, but then removed when Baker Mayfield arrived. Makes sense. Still no plans for renovations, and the Glazers probably don't even care.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are a type of pirate. And what were pirates? Pirates were very similar to raiders. They were thieves, they were rapists, they had sex slaves. It was just not good. And so by naming themselves the Buccaneers are promoting this type of thing. And I'm not saying this just because Tom Brady played for them for 3 years. I'm not saying that helped, but you know, it's just pirates did a lot of disgusting things back in the day, and we should not glorify that. I'm not blaming Tom Brady, but as an aside, I just want to point out that Tom Brady was born 13 days before Elvis died. I'm not saying that Tom Brady killed Elvis, but it cannot be ruled out entirely. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jameis Winston. Some might say Winston wasn't a bad player or bad enough to get this, and I say, fuck you. Winston was the first overall pick, and even at the time, I didn't understand why, because at Florida State, he was a turnover-prone machine, and that's talking just on the field. Was never really a great athlete, but anyway, Winston did have a promising rookie season, but he never really got better after that. He's always going to be most famous for his 30 interception season in 2019, which led to the Bucs signing he who shall not be named in free agency the next year and creating one of the worst moments of my life. Anyway, his 5 years in Tampa Bay, he went 28-42, threw for a shitload of interceptions. He had some good stretches and he could wow you with some good plays, but he's just too volatile. He spent the previous 4 seasons in New Orleans. He was supposed to take over for Drew Brees once Brees retired, and that never came to fruition. Now he is with Cleveland Browns. With him and Deshaun Watson, it's just the classiest quarterback room we've ever seen. But as for Tampa Bay, yeah, when you pick a guy first overall at the quarterback position, you expect them to lead you to the playoffs. You don't expect 28-42 record and 0 playoff appearances and 0 playoff. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles. Now last year, I thought Todd Bowles was like a 5 out of 5. I thought he was going to be fired early in the year because Tampa Bay was just, I thought they were going to be terrible, but everybody's surprised they lost the quote-unquote GOAT quarterback and actually did better, finishing with a winning record. Baker Mayfield resurrected his career, although they're still just a 9-8 team. They did win a playoff game over my Eagles, and they fought the Lions hard in the divisional round before losing. So it seems as though Bowles caught himself a little bit of slack. But I still believe that his career win-loss record of just 43% is not great, and he's a 500 coach of the Bucs, 1-2 in the playoffs. It's not like he has really a whole. We're not talking about a guy with 2 or 3 Lombardi trophies to lean back on. So I think if the Buccaneers struggle and they stink again this year, which wouldn't surprise anybody, I think that Bowles will be fired. So I still think his hot seat ranking still 3.5 out of 5. Still pretty toasty for me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. His roller coaster of a career carries on. I feel like every year it's either up and down. It's either good or bad with Baker Mayfield. You never know what's going to be which. It seems like once people finally seem ready to count him out, pops back up with a good season like he had last year with the Buccaneers. However, it's the opposite way, where every season he seems to enter with expectations where people say, oh, okay, maybe you can play. He seems to falter and crap his pants. Well, guess what? He's entering this season with some expectations. So if I'm a Buccaneers fan or if I'm a Buccaneers teammate, I'm kind of like, oh shit, maybe we should, watch out for that. Is he going to flop like he did in 2019 and 2021 and 2022? We don't know. Again, that's the beauty of Baker Mayfield. We don't know. It is worth noting, though, that he did win more regular season and playoff games than Tampa Bay's quarterback from 2022, whose name escapes me at the moment. Overall, I'd say Baker's prove it rating is an 8.5 out of Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. It pains me to do this because I've been on the Baker Mayfield roller coaster. I was on the Baker Mayfield roller coaster for a long time when people said he sucked, and then I finally got off of it in 2022, and then he came back last year and had a really good year with Tampa. And I said this in the previous video. Every year, it seems like where he's gone in with no expectations, he surprises people and he plays well. But when he goes into a season with expectations, which the Buccaneers have now, because they had a winning, they won the division last year, albeit a very bad division, and Baker played well. They were somewhat close to coming to the championship game. Now the real pressure's on Baker, and he hasn't really responded well to preseason expectations in years past with the Browns. So, and the Buccaneers just paid him a shitload of money to be their franchise quarterback. To me, based on history, it seems like this isn't going to go well. And I enjoy Baker. He's a great actor. I love his commercials, but as somebody who was one of the big people on Baker Mayfield Island, based off of history, I don't think it's going to go well this year. He's due to regret. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Vinny Testaverde, 1988. Vinny Testaverde, another first overall pick who was drafted to the Buccaneers, who were famously terrible in the 1980s. He actually took over for Steve Young in 1987 when Young was traded to the 49ers, which saved Young's career. I've always wondered, what if the Buccaneers had kept Steve Young and traded Testaverde to the 49ers instead? Would Testaverde have gone on to be a Hall of Famer? Who knows? He played for almost 2 decades and finished with 275 touchdown passes, but in this season, his second in the league, it was not good. He completed just under 48% of his throws. He had 13 touchdowns and 35 interceptions, putting Jameis Winston to shame. He took 33 sacks and had a dreadful 48.8 passer rating as the Buccaneers went 5-10. Again, I don't know how they won 5 games with him throwing 35 interceptions on the season, but Vinny would eventually, after he left Tampa, carve out a respectable long career, as I mentioned. But goddamn, 1988, 35 interceptions, bro. That's just, wow.